One.
Kidnap me. Hurry, please. There's a note left in our copy.
Jonbenet Ramsey, Boulder, Colorado.
Truthfully, I'm a little scared right now because I've tried to talk about this topic on my iPhone for the past hour and then on a separate occasion for another hour. And whenever I say the name of the person or start going into detail and beginning my background on the case and the topic and begin to discuss what I think about it, my phone all of a sudden tells me that it has a problem with the storage, even after deleting apps, deleting videos, deleting pictures, after having no issues with my storage ever since I got this phone. My voice sounds a little shaky, not because I'm trying to be dramatic, but because I just walked up a set of spiral stairs. Or maybe I am just trying to be dramatic. But like, this is all just kind of playing into what people suspect about not only phones, but also the government and technology, and I sound like a crazy person, and that also I think has to do with it. So basically, right now I am filming with the front portion of my phone because before I was switching it backwards and I wasn't able to tell when the video would cut off recording, and also it was recording, I didn't mention this, it was recording just pure white. And then I literally got 19 minutes of footage on my phone before I deleted apps and videos, and after deleting those apps and videos, it was telling me there was not enough storage. I got 19 minutes of me talking very like disjointedly. I was kind of just giving like a preface to this topic, and it was really disorganized, but when I tried to put it onto my computer, it told me that it was a file that it couldn't read, like it didn't know what to do with, and it wasn't supported by the format. But I have a Mac computer and an Apple iPhone. This is like how they say that the Snapchat filters are just recognizing everyone's faces so the government can put it in a database when they need to utilize it, which now that I say that out loud, I'm not sure what they would utilize it for. Unless you're a criminal, or unless the world ends and they need to like pick and choose who they want to keep around. I don't know why they would need your face for that though. I just got a text and I see it now because I have the camera pointed this way so I can make sure that it is recording. I'm with my finger touching the little thing that says it's recording because every time that I try to do this, it stops recording, and I don't know why. My phone is not out of storage, so I don't know what's going on. Basically, I have deleted, I just said basically so many times. I sound like that kid that goes, apparently, my phone can't record video, even though it very much can, and I've been using it to record video for the past 3 months. But anyway, is this what you want at the government, at someone who is monitoring my phone right now? I literally sound like I'm insane, but I'm just I feel a little uneasy. It's like a gut feeling that I'm getting here where I don't really know why I'm having so many issues trying to do this. But me and my forehead shine are gonna try to discuss the topic that I've been trying to discuss for the past 2 weeks, because it is something that I am not only passionate about, I would say, not really passionate, just interested. And I would say that most of the United States is interested in this topic. Like, it is incredibly well known, and even more so now that it has kind of been republicized as the 20th year anniversary has approached. But I'm not a bandwagoner. I'm afraid to say her name because I'm afraid it's going to make my phone stop recording, legitimately. I sound like I'm making this up. I'm not, but I'm not a Jonbenet Ramsey bandwagoner. I have been not monitoring the case, more so just reading things about the case and having knowledge about the case since I was 11 years old. And what's funny is that I came to becoming involved with the case because I was talking to strangers on the internet as an 11-year-old. Yeah, literally the thing that every like mommy blog about internet safety tells you not to do and tells your parents to watch out for in your child who has a computer in the room. And I had a computer in my room, and I went on Neopets, and I met people on the Neo boards, and we talked in AIM. And there was one friend in particular, something just hit a window, and I'm feeling very nervous. Hopefully there isn't a murder in here. I became involved with an online forum about JonBenet as an 11-year-old also because my friend, who I would talk to on AIM one day, changed her signature, and it was right around the time when Madeleine McCann went missing in Portugal. So her signature said something along the lines of, "Find Maddie, rest in peace JonBenet." I was like, oh, who's Maddie? Who's JonBenet? She briefly described it to me. Her English wasn't really good. I also think that she might have been 30 years old and a man, but who's to say? And she described to me briefly what it was, and then somehow through her I started talking on this online forum about the case, and I remember it very well. It was all pink, it was mostly girls who frequented it, and we all just talked about the case. And it's funny because like nowadays on Instagram you'll see 11-year-old, 12-year-old kids who make edits for like their favorite YouTuber, their favorite celebrity, or like favorite basketball player, like all kinds of things. And as an 11-year-old, I was doing that for Jonbenet Ramsey. I kid you not, like literally learned how to use transparency and layers on Photoshop because I overlaid a picture of her with the transparency up onto her grave and like put it as my signature on this forum as I talked about this dead 6-year-old. Yeah, but I, for a while, have been somebody who, like, really believed that it was an intruder who killed her. And I think that now that we're 20 years into the case, for maybe the first 5 years or so, that wasn't the popular belief in the general public. It was mostly people thinking that Patsy or John killed her, because I also think that that was kind of what the media paid attention to. And then we had the whole thing with John Mark Carr. And if you're not familiar with that, I'm not going to get into it, but basically someone confessed to killing JonBenet. His DNA did not match the DNA found at the crime site, so there's not any probable way that he did it. He's now living as a woman. He was living in Thailand at the time. I think he's back in the States. He's literally irrelevant. I mean, not literally irrelevant, but to the kind of discussion I'm about to have, he's pretty much irrelevant. Because recently, the Psychic Twins did a video with Shane Dawson where they apparently channeled JonBenet and started talking to her on the camera, and it was all very like kitschy, and is that a word? It was very weird because they like pretended to be JonBenet and kind of talked in like a little girl voice, and I feel like it definitely discredited what they were saying. And what they were saying is that a higher power was involved in the death of this little girl, this little pageant star, as the media very fondly calls her. It's kind of their favorite thing, is to show her pageant pictures and kind of paint this persona of who this little girl was, even though she only was 6. And I kind of want to put out there what my current thoughts about the case are, especially because I'm 21 now. Like, it's the 20th year anniversary. I've been following the case for 10 years of my life, even though I was a 1-year-old when it happened. Like, I was alive. I was 1. Literally an infant. I just want to go over a couple facts of the case because I think that what makes this case so confusing, and this is going to be the first point that I make, is that you can try to trace it to one person and follow that person and everything will line up with that one person except maybe 1 or 2 things, and then you can't be certain for sure that it was that one person, either John, Patsy, or an intruder, or Burke. But at this point, I seriously doubt that he was involved. But you can't really rule anything out because John and Patsy have legally been ruled out, but and as an 11-year-old, I would have, like, watching this video, seeing somebody accuse John or Patsy, I would be like so upset. What I was saying is that I think that multiple people were involved with this crime. So that is why it becomes so confusing and also so interesting, because you can take all these little tiny details and attribute them to all types of people because multiple people were involved with the crime, and then it all falls apart when one little thing doesn't quite go with it. And I think that that was probably intentional. I think it was probably intentional because crimes and serial killers and kidnappings and deaths of little children have never quite been like the case of Jonbenet Ramsey. I feel like I need to back up what I just said about multiple people being involved, because that's kind of like my conclusion. That's kind of like part of my conclusion. It sounds a little improbable if you, I don't know, if you believe that Patsy killed her or an intruder killed her. There's, of course, the DNA evidence at the site that cannot be attributed to anyone, but it's also interesting to note that this case was not handled properly, and John was a very wealthy and influential man in his community. I mean, it's weird because I never knew for a long time that he called his private pilot, his private jets person, he called a plane to get out of Boulder, Colorado right after he found his daughter dead. And when you think about people who are really advocating for finding the killer, you don't really think of John Ramsey, which is crazy because in so many other cases where a little girl has died mysteriously, her dad oftentimes is so involved because that's his baby girl. What I think happened, just going over the entire case, which is so crazy because there are so many details that literally happened in one night, and that one night kind of phenomena I'll also like speak to in a moment here. I'm gonna stop and like create multiple clips because the last time that I made that long clip, it wouldn't upload to my computer and said that it was like an ineligible file. So, BRB. And we're back, just trying to evade whoever is monitoring my iPhone right now. So what I was saying is that I'm going to go through the case really quickly, as quickly as I can. It's Christmas Day. You have those photos of Jonbenet when she was opening her gifts that are the last photos that were taken of her before she died. They go to a Christmas Day party and she plays with her friends and things are going on. There's some speculation, mostly in the people who believe Burke did it, that he was like playing doctor with her and that was why sexual assault was found on the body, but I do not believe that. I think that, just gonna put it out there, I think that sexual assault was going on for a long time, and I did not used to think that, but yes. And so they are going on a trip the next day, and they go home and put the kids to bed, and then the next morning Patsy finds the ransom note. And then it's this whole thing where they don't know where their child is. The ransom note clearly says, do not contact the police. And the first thing that they do is contacting the police. So that leads me to believe that they were aware that their child was not in danger because they were aware that their child was no longer alive. Because if a ransom note clearly says, if you contact the police, we are going to kill your daughter, there's no way in hell that you're gonna contact the police. Like, even in a state of shock or a state of not knowing what to do. And I used to believe it. I'll say that over and over again, but I think that that is a clue that leads me to believe that John, Patsy, and potentially even the police knew the fate of this little girl before she was officially discovered. And that's another thing to note, is that everyone told John to search the house. And I mean, working from the bottom up does make sense, but what would you be searching the house for? You know what I mean? And what would you find in the wine cellar? What are you expecting to find besides your daughter's body, because you know that she is there? And it's so easy to get caught up in the whole storytelling aspect of this tragedy happening and the father finding his own daughter's body in the basement. But he immediately screws up the crime scene and contaminates the body, and the police didn't intervene with that. I mean, I wasn't there at the crime scene, so I don't really know, but this entire crime scene was tampered with, and I just no longer believe that that was done unintentionally. And then we go into things such as the murder weapon, the ransom note, the bowl of pineapple, the details of the night of her murder. I'm gonna try to make this quick because I could just talk about this forever, and that's another feature, is that you can talk about this forever and still feel like you haven't really gotten anywhere, which is weird. Yeah, so the ransom note was written, and it was 3 pages long, like so long, had a bunch of aspects of it from different movies that were pulled from it, and that is something that Wikipedia has cited. It's well known. Patsy's handwriting was shown to match the handwriting there, which you can't use handwriting in the court of law like somebody who analyzes handwriting, but it's still important to note, because we're not the court of law. Like, I'm just speaking as a regular civilian. I also think that that amount of money that was in the ransom note was just something that they needed to use to be like, hey, this is a ransom note. Like, here, we need some scary, intimidating phrases, we need a weird signature at the end of it, and we need a amount of money. So why not use the bonus that John just got? Then we can blame it on all the people in his office who knew that he got a bonus. But you know who else knew that he got a bonus? His family and the people that were close to him. I think that Patsy wrote the ransom note. That was kind of her job. And then the bowl of pineapple. So Jonbenet had pineapple in her stomach at the time of autopsy. So that means that she ate it that evening. And they found the bowl of pineapple with Patsy and Burke's fingerprints on it. And Patsy said that she didn't feed her pineapple. And what I really think that happened, this is what I'm gonna get into the kind of theory that I'm still kind of forming for myself and still trying to figure out. I think that pineapple was Jonbenet's favorite food, and I think that it was fed to her as a final meal. I, at this point, legitimately think that it was fed to Jonbenet because those around her, her family, knew that she was going to die. And I'm gonna get into why I think that. I think that it was a combination of her father being in a place of power, a place of wealth, and what is associated with people who are in a place of power and are wealthy. And I don't think also that it was a coincidence that this little girl was fed pineapple, was strangled and hit over the head with a flashlight, had a ransom note written about her as a 6-year-old. So she was a 6-year-old child, and she died on Christmas Day, the birth of Jesus. I'm not super Christian, so I don't have like, I can't really speak to it, but it's literally like the day of God, Jesus, the opposite of what we all know to be the opposite of God and Jesus. It's weird also because on her gravestone, she's listed as dying on the 25th. Per the autopsy, and when she was found, she died on the 26th, in like the early hours of the day. So it doesn't make any sense that they put her day of death as being Christmas. So yeah, I don't think that being 6, dying on Christmas in the year 1996 was coincidental. I actually read a book by Tori Hayden a couple of years ago. All right, pause, I'm gonna do a new clip here to kind of make sure that these are being saved on my phone. Okay, Tori Hayden. So this is speaking to the whole 1996 Christmas Day kind of aspect to what I'm talking about here. So Tori Hayden worked in the 1970s in special needs classrooms, and that was before the American Disability Act. It was before special needs classrooms were the way that they are today. And in this one book, she wrote about an experience she had with a little girl named JD, I'm pretty sure, and she was selectively mute. So that means that she didn't speak, she chose not to speak. It's a psychological condition. And with some after-school work and one-on-one play and counseling, Tori got her to speak. She also not spoke hunched over. She walked hunched over because she didn't speak, and she insisted that she walk kind of protecting her insides. And once Tori did get her to kind of talk and discuss things while they were playing and coloring and things like that after school, she started to say some really weird things. She started to talk about how she didn't want to be recorded on video, and she had to go like this to keep her insides in, and if she didn't walk hunched over, like so, Hunchback of Notre Dame, like, hey, if she didn't walk like that, her insides were gonna fall out. And she said that spiders were constantly watching her, and one day she didn't come to school because she was drawing Antichrist symbols with a knife on her little sister's skin. Crazy things. Tori eventually gets to the bottom of what she's saying a little bit and gets her to describe how she has to drink something at night, her and her friend, and she is taken away, and videos are recorded of her, and she has to drink blood, and she watches a cat be pulled apart, and then she knows that her friend, once she turns 6, is going to have to die. This is all kind of like recounting information, so she's telling a story about past experiences per se, and she explains that she knows that at 6 years old, her friend is going to have to die, and she watches her friend be killed by these people who take her away at night and take videos of her. that's kind of the premise of the book. It goes further because she is taken into foster home. They end up finding the skeleton of a cat at her dad's home, but they are never able to completely come to the conclusion that it was Satanism or some kind of occultist abuse that was going on with this little girl. She did not have signs of sexual abuse, I don't believe, and she was also very afraid of her 4-year-old little sister dying at the age of 6. That was another aspect. So it kind of ends with an epilogue kind of talking about all the different theories to what might have happened, if it was all in her head, if it was just abuse within the home, or if it was abuse that was occurring outside of the home with a much larger ring of people. So, connecting this to Jonbenet, before her death, she saw a doctor multiple times. I don't have the number on me, but so many times for urinary tract infections. And I'm gonna be upfront about this. The only time I've ever gotten a urinary tract infection is when I didn't pee after having sexual intercourse. But basically, it is kind of crazy for a little kid to get that many urinary tract infections unless there's something wrong with like their urethra, they have some kind of pre-existing condition. It is another probable link to something that might have been occurring higher up outside of her home, outside of her family, that her family was involved with. She was having urinary tract infections, she was bedwetting, which I know my sister when she was younger would get urinary tract infections because she would hold her, like she wouldn't go to the bathroom, she would hold her pee, basically. Because a boy would spy her in the bathroom, so she wouldn't go there and she was afraid of it and she got UTIs. And then she would have like trouble peeing and stuff like that, and like bedwetting can also occur. So she was having issues, and when she was found, there was evidence of sexual abuse. I think that when you put all the pieces together here, there are these aspects of an intruder. There's an unidentified boot print. There's this John Mark Carr who says that he was somehow involved in the killing but has no connection or no way to trace him to it. We have the unknown DNA. Probable cause for an intruder, probable cause for Patsy, because all these things are related to her own self. It happened in her home. Probable cause for John because he found the body and also was raring to get out of there immediately after, calling his pilot. I think that there was an intruder, but he was known. It was known that he was going to come and do something. I think that it was decided that 1996, Christmas Day, early hours of the 26th, this 6-year-old little girl was going to die to keep her family in the standing that they were, and to just kind of uphold to a belief system, something that I don't know a lot about, and I don't know if that's on purpose. And you think about all the media coverage and how so many times things that are covered in the media, I believe, are just used to distract from something else that is going on. In conclusion, I don't really know how to conclude this. I think that, like I used to do as an 11-year-old writing about this case on forums, we literally talked about like whether or not Jonbenet used a flipper, like on Toddlers and Tiaras, like that was something that was discussed. But anyway, I just kind of want to open this up to the internet, I guess. I don't think that it's fair. I think that it's really sad, and a lot of sad, horrible things go on in this world. So if you're watching this and also stan Jonbenet Ramsey like I do apparently, I would love if you commented, added to the conversation. I think it's kind of fun. That sounds terrible to say, especially because this is about a small child who died. I think that the pineapple was Jonbenet's last meal. I think that the ransom note was written by Patsy and was kind of just a prop. Didn't really have any meaning. John going directly to the basement was not a coincidence. Jonbenet being 6 years old, dying on Christmas Day in 1996 was a coincidence. I don't think, did I say I did think it was a coincidence? I don't think it is, to clarify. Oh, there were intruders, but they were known to the family, and it was well established what was going to happen. It wasn't really a surprise. And I think that's pretty evident in the way that they interview. And everyone was kind of just like, oh, it's because they're guilty. But maybe not. I wish I could do something cool with my eyebrows, like swirl them up and down. I felt like that was the most disorganized thing I have ever done in my entire lifetime. Rest in peace, Jonbenet. It's been 20 years. I think that some of the criminal sketches that they do of you age progressed are really ugly, and I like to think that in reality you would have been really pretty and successful. Godspeed. Hope you're doing okay up there. So that's it. If you're watching this, honestly, thank you. YouTube is funny. In reality, I think that my sister will be the only one who watches this video. Hi, Delaney. Love you. There's like 4 hours left of 2016. Ending it talking about murder. Love myself.